All right, let's check in with the listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Thank you. Listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like Katie in Brooklyn, New York did.
Ooh, New York.
Katie says, I need your advice on game storage, Omega Cops. I am from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised, and as many of you may know, apartments here are very tiny. I'm doing some late spring cleaning, and I'm trying to throw out as much material items as I can part with. Most things are easy for me to toss out, but I'm at a bit of a crossroads with my old PS3 and PS2 games. They take up a considerable amount of shelf space and have not been touched in years. I often hear you all lament over systems and games you wish you had never parted ways with or returned to childhood homes to find they were gone. I fortunately have a gamer father who has never thrown out our Nintendo, Genesis, Sega CD, Dreamcast, or PS1.
That's extremely cool.
Having not yet felt this loss, I would love your advice as to how I should handle my own games. Should I gift them to the library? Should I save them in a storage facility? Should I try to sell them for $20? Thanks in advance. Katie in Brooklyn. Yeah.
I'd say keep them. I mean, the storage is a big question.
Yeah.
If you're talking PS2 and like CDs and that sort of thing, it's easy enough to get like those kind of CD binders that are.
Don't
like,
do that. No.
Why not?
No. I'm not even going to entertain.
Whoa.
Wait, is this the games or the consoles?
Well, I think she's asking
Everything?
about the game specifically, but
Okay.
yeah, we can
I
address it
do
all.
that.
Yeah,
I
do that.
Why not?
So I got this really cute one on Amazon that makes it look like a fantasy book.
Yes.
And so it's like
Fantasy book.
Yeah, it's just like it's like a leather bound thing with gold designs
That
on
sounds
it.
pretty
And
nice,
it doesn't,
Sam.
yeah, and it doesn't look like a CD binder.
So is
which
this
is
is this a conservation issue or like a damaging them issue? What's your
Yeah, you know how excruciating it is that like nobody in the United States kept their game boxes for NES games or for Super Nintendo games?
Oh,
or
so
anything?
okay.
Everybody
I see
threw
what
them
you're
away. Now it's so hard to find boxes and instruction manuals and all the stuff that came with them.
I
And,
didn't expect you to get this fired up about this.
well, I'm a
Yeah.
collector.
Well, so a lot of what I did is put the CDs into these binders, keep those binders where with the console itself in my living room, kind of in my entertainment system or setup, and then have all the boxes in cardboard boxes in storage somewhere, right? Like, because I didn't want to just
Yeah,
throw them
you
out.
have it both ways in that sense, yeah.
Right,
They're more
yeah.
accessible. Do you throw away your boxes?
So also
is a
having
yes.
been born and raised in New York, my suggestion to a fellow New Yorker
Yeah.
is do your parents still live there? Because that's
Yeah,
what
she
I
does have
did.
this gamer dad.
Yeah.
Drop off those boxes.
Yeah, my parents just shoved them because I initially said just throw them out, and then my parents were like, "Wait, are you sure? Maybe they'll be worth something one day." Because my parents know nothing about video games, but I figured, like, I don't know, I had this moment of hesitation. I was like, "Well, we have an attic. Just put it in the attic. It's not doing anything else."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I have
what they're there for.
attic-like spaces in my house that I keep all of my old game stuff in. That same way.
But do you ever like go back to them?
Probably rats in there.
Yeah, rat BBQ.
Good source of meat.
Yeah, exactly. You just gotta go.
But
on
what
the
is that
quest.
meat called?
But yeah, do you ever go and actually like fish them
It's
out?
so hard to do it. It's
Yeah.
like I have this it's like an attic type space, so it's like, you have to basically crawl space like to the stuff. It's completely stupid. No, it's idiotic.
I'm glad you.
But I
should do
didn't
it.
separate the discs from the manuals or the boxes, which is just so bad to do. You can do that for convenience. That's fine.
I use my manuals as tinder actually to start barbecue grill.
Yeah. To
Rat
roast that
barbecue.
rat meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't actually play old games from like the last 20 years anyway, though. So that's what's confusing is like I am saving like my Wii games, like I have a really great Wii. I'm never going to I don't even have my Wii hooked up. I don't even have my Wii U hooked up anymore. But I have a Super Nintendo and a few other things hooked up from past eras. And I keep those games in my living room like displayed nicely. So, yeah.
Maybe we'll get a Wii Classic one day. You won't even need them.
That's the problem, right? Is that like I don't know if there'll be a super easy way to play Xbox 360 games in the future, but
Backwards.
or if I'd
compatibility.
even want to, because maybe there'll be really nice HD versions of everything.
So how do you feel about digital games as a collector?
We talk about this sometimes on this show. It's really cool to have like a Wii with like every single virtual console game on it. That's really neat. But the fact that they just evaporate into space afterwards is really sad. Oh, are you saying like would I download games versus collecting them?
Versus physical copies, since
You got to
like
pick your
those
battles,
boxes
right? Like
and
you
those-
got to say like, hey, I'm gonna really get every single Switch game in a hard copy and really think about that and really go for that. And you probably want to do that 10 years after the system's popular when it's really cheap. So it's hardly an issue when you're playing games and contemporarily thinking about collections. But
So how complete is your NES library?
so I have about 400 NES games uniquely, and then a bunch of doubles of those, the rare ones, stuff like that. And then there's about 300 I don't care about, and then there's about 6 I really want badly. like Little Samson.
Little Samson. I was gonna say. What's an example of a game you don't care about on an NES game?
There's about 40 baseball games I don't care about.
Okay. What?
But you own them?
No,
Oh, okay.
I collect on irony, rarity, and quality.
Irony,
There's a lot of
that's-
really funny games.
I like in that order.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really funny games that I think will also be rare at some point. Those cross over a lot.
So you might not be interested in a Bases Loaded,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever the what's the Base Wars? You definitely have that one.
I like Base Wars, yeah. And Dusty Diamond's All-Star Softball is a very collectible, rare NES game. Really fun. You play as monsters. We can just keep talking about this. If you don't stop,
If we're
me,
going to talk
I'm not
baseball
gonna
games,
stop.
we got to get Ryan out here.
Yeah, Katie, as someone who also doesn't like having just a lot of clutter in their house, but also feels bad that I did get rid of a bunch of my old games and systems. I wish I had hung on to them. I would urge you to try to figure out some way to hold on to those games if it is dropping them off your parents.
Ask your parents.
Yeah.
It's delightful to store old magazines and games out of sight and then pull them out again. I do.
Yeah,
have,
every
like,
now and then,
I do
like-
find a box of Nintendo Powers like at my parents' house. I'm like, oh, they're so cool, you know. And like I would also collect those now if I bought, you know. But they're the ones I had when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
like I have direct memories to them.
I guess you can keep them while also resisting the temptation to keep them nearby, right?
Yeah.
If you can put them somewhere that you don't have to think about them and don't have to deal with
Don't
them on
have
a
to see
daily
them.
basis. Exactly.
That's just a small taste of what we've got in store for you in this week's episode of GameScoop. For the full episode, head over to youtube.com/GameScoop and be sure to subscribe.